Playtime must begin. Playtime must begin. Welcome to episode 418 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 31st of August, 2021, and featuring Sarah Jane Adventures, The Mad Woman in the Attic, written by Joseph Lidster and starring Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, Tommy Knight as Luke Smith, Daniel Anthony as Clyde Langer, Anjali Mohindra as Rani Chandra, Alexander Armstrong as the voice of Mr. Smith, and John Leeson as the voice of K9. I am Bill Sylvia, the writer in black, and with me are Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Yep, those opening credits just keep getting longer and longer and longer.
Thomas Fireheart.
I'm surprised I'm not more loopy considering how little sleep I got.
And Mad Matt Winchell.
I'm still trying to get better.
I'd be more loopy if I didn't take a nap for an hour after I got home.
Good for you. I got pestered by some of my other crew, and so I've gotten no sleep today.
No naps for me either. It's been busy with one thing or another.
So how's everybody's week been?
Well, I got my new monitor and my new office chair. I don't know if you guys saw it in the general chat. I put the photo of my monitor next to my laptop. I didn't really do much in the way of calculating. I just went, oh, it seems the monitor size that Staples recommends most often is 27 inches. So I should buy a 27-inch monitor. I didn't stop and compare that to my 14-inch laptop until after it arrived. And I'm like, wow, my monitor is about 4 times the size of my laptop and almost as big as my TV.
Yep.
Now you're seeing with definition.
See, I remember when 17-inch monitors were what everybody had, and then 21-inch monitors were huge. And I had a freaking 25-inch monitor, and people were like, holy crap! Of course, this was the days that, they had freaking, tubes still in them.
Right. Back when you needed a whole bunch of space behind it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just didn't occur to me that it could potentially be double the size of the ones that they have on campus, and that's the size it is.
Now, anybody else have anything interesting happen?
Had the longest day of work I've had so far, and came back with splitting knee pain. Had the last couple of days off, and I also been having a little bit of a panic trying to reschedule things because other family things technically interfere, but also come first on a certain degree too. And actually, yeah, just about everything else I'm going to be covering a little bit.
Okay. Thomas?
Basically just continuing to get over the sinus bullshit I've been putting up with for the past week or so. Although last week I did hit affiliate on my on my personal Twitch channel, so that was kind of amazing. I don't know how the hell I managed it, to be honest, when I've only really had 2 regular viewers at best.
Well, it does count viewers that come around even after your shows are done, so.
And of course it's funny because the average is the average probably wouldn't be so skewed if I hadn't been streaming pretty much every fucking day.
I was actually thinking I was going to stream a game again tonight, but like I said before, I all of a sudden had 10 minutes before 8. I'm like, oh wait, actually I have another show tonight. Oh shoot, I need to watch the episodes. Okay, let me turn everything else off.
I actually got so fucking distracted trying to come up with ideas for what to put as like a channel trailer that I didn't get to bed until like after like 6 or 7 in the morning. So I just was like, oh fuck it, I feel like I can remember the episodes well enough that I can just sleep through until right before we start.
For me, channel trailers have been basically me going through footage that's been in the last couple of weeks at the very least, and going after with a butcher's knife, trying to find that sweet spot of like 10 seconds or so, and cutting it out and putting that together. I actually got a couple clips from a few months ago. If I can get some more footage rolling out again, I'll actually get some more updated footage again.
Well, you might be able to get something from tomorrow night.
Oh, yes, true. Phasmophobia, there's been an update. And Randy and Seraph have been usually trying to play it. I can also join in and possibly record it.
Yeah, it's not like we can get much of anyone else.
At the moment.
Barry maybe, but not often. But yeah, it's been that and another game we wanted to play, but there's just this huge update that changed the entire game pretty much. Meaning everything that we'd learned about the game when we were playing it in October through February, pretty hardcore, is now absolutely worthless.
Yep.
But it'll be fun watching us try to relearn.
2 new ghosties. One of the tools, almost all the tools have been retweaked somehow, and one of them has been one of them got deleted and basically replaced.
Two of them got merged, and a new tool got put in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't even say that's why I like console games, because now they do the same shit with updates to console games.
Yep.
And well, this is also an independent game that's technically not released, vaguely.
Got you. So it's a beta, basically.
It's like a very late beta, yeah.
Yeah, it was being developed by one person until like the last 2-3 months when he actually hired a staff, because when that thing came out, it made like all the freaking money for a freaking indie game. He started making like millions from this game.
He's like, oh shit, you guys really like this. Okay, let me bring in some people and we can actually get some work done.
Well, for a while there, he's like, nope, I can do it myself. I can still do it myself. And then he got around to about February, March this year. It's like, okay, I can't do it myself. Okay, guys, I'm going to hire an artist and I'm going to hire a debugger and a couple of other guys.
This is getting too much for me. I want progress too.
Mm-hmm. It's starting to overload me, so I'm going to get these guys. And some of these guys are cool because I watch people that stream this game, and one of the new developers will show up on the stream and start chatting with the streamer.
Interesting.
And would start giving out some pretty heavy hints before this patch came out about what was in it. So that's kind of cool, and
yeah,
keeps
if
me watching
being properly social, that's great.
Yep.
Who knows? If I live stream it, we might get some attention.
Maybe not. Who knows? I mean, the guy I watch is really big. Is really big in the Phasmophobia circle. So
that probably helped.
Probably he's the #1 streamer for it. Because he streams 3 hours of it practically every day. He's insanely addicted to it. I'm like, how do you even have a life, dude?
That's kind of what streamers have to do, is they have to find something they can stream for multiple hours.
Yeah, but usually I've seen streamers and they're like, they do this game on this day and they do this game on another day, and this guy's just like,
no. If you're #1, you're playing one game the entire time.
Only recently have I seen him start doing other games, and it's usually little one-shots. Except for he did play Ghost Hunter's Core for a week, which is the rival game.
I feel like if nothing else, it's got to be better for your mental health to do something else, from day to day.
It really depends.
I couldn't stream about Doctor Who 7 days a week.
I could, but that's me. I couldn't do it with the level of production we have on this, let me tell you. If I had to spend every day writing up a new script, writing up a new outline for an episode, oh god, that might cause me to go out back and shoot myself.
Well, we could always simplify how we opened and then literally just cut right to outside of personal gab to just doing the review. We wouldn't have to do all the news and stuff. But that's cutting a lot fat.
That's true. There's usually a week's worth of news that we try to cover, except, of course, recently there's not been news. Speaking of which, on tonight's show, we have days, and we don't have any news. Not a sausage. I checked Big Finish, and even they all have a bunch of coming soons, but no actual releases.
When even Big Finish dries up for anything new for you to toss in there.
I scared myself looking at some headlines, or at least startled. I was just checking Doctor Who news because I didn't know if there was no news or you just hadn't done it yet. And I happened to see a headline. It was like Tom Baker to record 2 lost stories, but I thought the O was an A at first. And I was like, how did we miss him doing his last 2 stories? But I was like, wait, that's not what it says.
Yeah, no, that wasn't what it said.
Darn it all, Bill.
Anyway, let's go ahead and start tonight's episode. Starting with birthdays. The first birthday is August 25th, and that's the birthday of Keegan Joyce, who plays Starkey on the spin-off series K9, the unofficial spin-off series. You know, the asshole. He turned 32. Next, on the 25th, is the birthday of Phil Collinson, who was a producer from pretty much the beginning of New Who through 2008. He turned 51. Next is the birthday of Annette Badland, who played Margaret Blaine, or Blonde Felfach Pasmere Day Slevine, in 2005. She turned 71. And then finally, yesterday saw the birthday of our own Bill Sylvia. Are you the one in black now? What is it? You've changed your title like 2-3 times in the past year.
I've been introducing myself here as Writer in Black, but I've been slowly shifting to One in Black because I have my email that says Reviewer in Black, and then I had Twitter saying Writer in Black, and I'm like, you know what? I figured One in Black works, but I don't know.
The One in Black, yes.
Yeah. I know you used to be Man in Black, but I always did raise an eyebrow at that, because to me, the Man in Black will always be Johnny Cash.
Which I'd never even heard of until I was an adult. It was always based on Will Smith.
Uh-huh. No, I knew Cash, so not personally, but yeah, I was not. I was one of the things I was exposed to as a kid. I wasn't that fond of him until later in my life. I began to realize how
I've had
great
people
a voice
tell
he
me
had.
I should. I know I've been told that even though I don't like country, I should still give him a listen. I just haven't gotten around to it.
He's got a few songs that even country haters like myself will enjoy once in a while.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is I usually hate country music, with the exception of Johnny Cash and like 3 or 4 other songs.
Yeah. Even good music people, even if they hate a particular type of music, will occasionally find the 1 or 2 things here or there they'll still like.
Addendum: Johnny Cash, Jerry Reed, or a couple of other songs, and a couple of other songs. Because I don't care who you are, Eastbound and Down is a great song. It just gets stuck in your head. But I actually kind of file that as a separate section of country music. I file that as trucker music.
The trucker music, yes.
Because I also listen to C.W. McCall on occasion. He did Convoy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's trucker music too. So that just goes in a separate category.
This here's Rubber Duck.
Yep. Pigpen, better lay back. Those pigs are clogging my sinuses. Yep. Yeah. You know, there was a sequel to that song, and it's absolutely like off the wall insane.
Not surprised.
They take the whole convoy around the world.
Hmm.
It's just weird. Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna get a little strange, especially when you gotta go across the ocean.
Oh yeah, they get the guys in the Jesus guys in the microbus and ahead of them to part the water. Like I said,
I've never caused a tangent by having a I've never caused a tangent by having a birthday before. This is new.
This is your present, Bill. You've caused a tangent.
You've got your own tangent. How do you feel? Anyway, happy birthday to Keegan, Phil, Annette, and Bill. And we'll move on to the news, which doesn't exist. So we'll move past the news. We'll just wave to it as we go by.
Bye-bye.
Wave, ladies and gentlemen, wave. And move on.
This is a show that reviews British shows, so the Queen's wave.
And move right on to Geek Talk, where we have a few things to talk about. I wanted to take a quick couple of minutes here to talk a first look at a couple of things. First of which is Star Trek Lower Decks Season 2. You guys might remember I reviewed Season 1 last year.
Yeah, that was one of the few things you were particularly thrilled about.
Season 2 I'm liking a lot better because they're a lot calmer. The over-the-topness of the characters have been toned down. They've kind of found their niche and are going for it. And while they still get in, freaking wacky situations, they're more believable wacky situations.
See, that might be the starting point for a lot of people then. Because I'm sure the over-top sugar high probably scared away most people or some people that just don't care for it.
It still gets levels of insanity. Like one episode, they they're hired because a collector has died. And another collector is inheriting, and he wants them to go through the collection and make sure that everything in there is safe. Well, they set off basically a trap, and the whole system tries to collect them. So,
yeah.
Thing is, I can believe that. It's still insane as hell, but it's believable within the Star Trek universe. So,
yeah, it's not something that you're just sit there going, that breaks all the rules.
Yeah. I'm like, good job, guys. Keep it up. Keep it up. The other series I want to talk about is Marvel's latest MCU entry, the animated series What If. Now, I've watched 3 episodes of this. I really liked the last one. The second one was pretty good, and I was okay on the first one. The concept is an old concept for Marvel Comics. Parallel universe where things were just slightly different. And they're handling it well. The first one bothered me a little because there's a few things that happened just because. And that bothered me a bit.
Yeah, that's a problem with a What If.
The whole concept was originally what if Peggy Carter became the super soldier instead of Steve Rogers? And the thing is, they still give her the shield. And there's no reason why that shield was chosen or created. I mean, if you look at Captain America, there's a reason he had the shield. He was given a shield as a stage prop, and it evolved into the modern shield. Here, they just freaking hand her the modern shield. I'm like, that's a little contrived.
Yeah.
See, I had seen, I think it was in the trailer. Yeah, in the trailer, what they did with Steve was the part that really struck me as that would not have fit into the original movie. I didn't think that was the best choice.
No, that was a little weird too. Like I said, that one was off. The second one was what if T'Challa, the Black Panther, became Star-Lord? What if he was taken into space instead of Peter Quill? And that one was believable. It was interesting. Yet you get a feeling that they really played up the fact that that T'Challa would have made everything better. So they kind of Marty stewed him in a way, and I'm like, so much so that he was able to talk Thanos out of destroying half the universe.
Okay, yeah, that's no.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, that's a little odd.
Yeah,
So,
that just yeets everything out the window there for me.
yeah, I was kind of like, that's a little over the top. It's a little bit, what the fuck, guys, are you thinking?
What are you saying,
What
Bill?
was that, Bill? I think we might have lost Bill.
Other than death, but then again,
Bill,
that's not even
you
part of the
started talking
MCU,
and you
so that wouldn't work. Oh, can you not hear me?
you start talking and you got
I
like
see
one syllable in.
I see my Discord connection is red. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So start
So
whatever
I
you were
was
trying to say
saying,
to bring it back.
mhm. So what I was saying was, unless they hooked Thanos up with another, I forget what they're called, the deities on par with Death. But then again, Death isn't actually part of the MCU, so that wouldn't work either.
Yeah, there's
It
that
is
just doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
There needs to be a
It is
lot more there.
It is a running gag in the episode that he does keep trying to be like, "Hey, come on, it would have worked," and everyone just keeps going, "Dude, that's genocide."
Yeah. But it still felt odd. And the
Yeah,
third
no.
one, which came out last week, was what if the Avengers that we saw, in the MCU at the beginning, were assassinated before they could get together? And that one I really liked because that one had this ongoing plot line of who did it, why, or who's doing it, and everything. It was really interesting.
Yeah, that one actually does sound really interesting.
It's really good, and it's perfectly believable once you realize what the difference in that universe is.
Ah.
Yeah, because everything starts getting messed up royally.
I think the one I'm most curious about, they showed a lot in the trailers of Marvel Zombies, and I'm very curious how they're going to try to say what one change they could make to the MCU to make it be the Marvel Zombies universe.
Yep, and that hasn't come out yet because only the first 3 is out.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, so yeah, that would actually be the MCU version of Marvel Zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Interesting.
It'll be, and I mean, shoot, that could even cross over with Doctor Strange too.
But yeah, but all in all, like I said, I was kind of iffy on the contrivedness of the first 2, but that third one really sold me on this series. So I'm going to continue watching, and I'm hoping that they keep getting that level of quality.
Yeah, from what I've heard, what ifs can be a very hit or very miss, sometimes even in the original comic format, to be fair.
Yes.
Some of the more popular ones I've heard of was what if the second Ghost Rider was the Ghost Rider's sister instead of himself, because both of those kids were in the same landfill when the events happened. So it could have happened that the boy would have gotten shot first instead, and the sister might have became the Ghost Rider. And the other one I've heard of was what if Captain America was with like the Sinister Six, like somebody else found him essentially and defrosted him, and he thought he was still part of the good guys.
The one I remember, and I used to have this one, was what if Wolverine was Lord of the Vampires?
Oh, I've seen that one too.
That one's freaking interesting as heck.
And I think there was a couple of different versions of what if for different members for Fantastic Four as well.
Mm.
Mm.
One of those actually became a thing for a little, very short while, and then they went back to the original Fantastic Four again.
Mm. I know the original. I know something that I've seen pointed out in reviews I've watched of the What If show so far is that compared to how the comics usually go, the endings have mostly been on a more like hopeful or positive note, arguably, like compared to apparently where the comics were, it'd be like going out of their way to show like, well, of course this alternate timeline wouldn't work because we have to make it clear that like whatever the main canon is was the best possible version of events.
Oh,
Kind of a
Whereas
thing,
this one,
because otherwise,
they're all supposed to cross over, so they all want it positive enough that you could see that happening.
mm,
possibly crossover, yeah.
Anyway, so I recommend both series to watch. I really recommend Lower Decks. I recommend What If conditionally, that it keeps doing the level of quality that the last episode was rather than the first two. All right, let's move on to movies. And the first up, Bill has finally managed to see a Christopher Reeve Superman movie.
Yes, so I watched the original Superman, which I alternately see either as Superman or as Superman the movie from 1978. This is a very interesting one because even though it's probably older than, I don't know if the average moviegoer would be accurate, but it's older than you usually expect references in TV and movies to be. But yet most especially shows that involve Superman basically assume that the audience has watched this movie, which I find really interesting considering, again, it's over 30 years old and usually they don't have that sort of expectations. I put this off for a long time because usually when I saw clips of it, it was always the clips that I felt aged the most poorly. The special effects that might have been good in the 70s and looked really dated now. But when I actually watched the movie all the way through, the special effect, like the flying effects and such, were a lot better than the clips I had seen.
I think you might have just seen low quality clips, maybe.
It's like they were showing, like there were clips that like, I don't know how to describe them, but like the movements were like usually jerky enough where I was like I wouldn't believe them. They were the ones of him flying through the sky, and I'm not even sure if they were from this movie or one of the sequels.
It might have been.
It
It
might have been the
probably what.
sequels then.
Yeah, because especially like the last sequel was done by a low budget company that tended.
Gotcha.
That was literally on the borderline of closing its doors already.
But when I watched this, I was like, definitely, in that respect, it was much better than I expected. The beginning with Krypton, I'll admit I was a bit critical of, especially the fact that the only color on the entire planet was Superman's cape. I just, that was a little that strained credibility for me. Also, the fact that it opened up with what seems to be a teaser for the next movie, but I think that's because of the whole Donner being removed and the movie being recut after he left.
Yeah.
Well, he always
A
had
little
that
bit of
plan,
that.
but he was kind of planning a whole continuity
But
of movies.
was it planned to be part of movie one?
Yes.
Yes, that
Okay.
particular they extend that actual bit to further
Okay.
explain what Zod was up to, and then they quickly go into the start of Superman 2.
Okay. Because I know parts of the ending that Donner had intended for Superman 2 were spliced onto the first movie instead. So I wasn't sure if the beginning had the same effect.
No, Donner had a long-term plan.
Yeah, he had a long-term plan, but they kicked him up before he could completely finish that plan.
But once he got actually, one thing that this movie understands relativity a lot better than any of the Superman properties I've seen to date. For example, in the CW, having Supergirl's mother still alive, whereas in this 1978 movie, they point out by the time Superman gets to Earth 6 galaxies away, that means Krypton's been gone for thousands of years. That's actually a lot more accurate. The first half of the movie, with his origin, is pretty much what everything else follows. The latter half, especially Lois Lane, is a different character than I've ever experienced, which I chalk up to the fact that I mostly know things post-Crisis, and this came out before Crisis.
That's a possibility, yeah.
Either that or Bruce Timm really changed the way Lois Lane would be portrayed going forward. I don't know which. But yeah, so that was interesting. But she still had, even though she was in some ways not as strong a character as I expected, she still had it where it counted. She really showed early on that she was an active character.
Mm-hmm.
And not the passive
She
character
also
she's
gets a lot more
stereotyped
time in the
as.
second movie, to be fair.
Gotcha. But yeah, it seemed for a while her main gag in this was that she can't spell, and I'm like,
yeah.
So overall, just because there are so many great movies that came out as it, I don't think it's quite. I think it might be a little overrated in terms of just comparing it to other movies from the late 70s, like Alien and Star Wars. But it's not bad. It definitely holds up. It's definitely, it's definitely a good movie. Better than Man of Steel, which is the same first half of the movie, but not done as well. And the second half I think is stolen from Superman 2. So yeah, it's good. I kind of want to see it faithfully remade, in terms of, set in the modern day using modern effects, but using a much more similar story.
I don't know if they could. I think Christopher Reeve's shoes are very hard to fill.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. I was talking about this before stream, and I wanted to mention it, and I forgot. Christopher Reeves is the only actor that I've seen. I've seen some good Supermen, but I have not seen anybody who pulled off Clark Kent as well as Christopher Reeve. And Randy was good to point out to me that that was pretty much Christopher Reeve's creation, that version of the Clark Kent as the, as being that different from Superman.
A slightly bumbling everyman, yeah.
So that's definitely a big positive in favor of this movie. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Tyler Hoechlin from the CW was the best Superman actor I had seen in live action before watching this, but his Clark Kent is too similar, and I have trouble seeing him as the bumbling side that Christopher Reeve pulls off perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen like behind the scenes of this movie, and I've seen how Reeve actually changed his posture.
Well, there's actually a scene where he does it.
Yes, but they go into more detail than was in that scene. They talk about how he deliberately went through reading that and developed, the slouch, and they did a few takes the first time, and no, that's not enough. No, that's too much. That kind of thing.
Mm.
And it took them a bit for them to find what they found to be the believable, bumbling version of the character.
I would also argue Christopher Reeve just pulls it off better than a lot of other actors, because while he is by no means... I feel like there's a lot of things with actors back then, is that they could pull off being attractive but also dorky as hell. Like, he pulls off looking like, oh, that dork, he'll never get laid. But also, you know, he switches, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's believable. Whereas a lot of actors now, like, you look at Henry Cavill, and it's like, no, I don't buy you.
I don't buy he's going to be bumbling, never. Yeah.
Yeah, and, I've always said it, Christopher Reeve had an on-screen presence.
Mm-hmm.
He has this charisma to him when he's being Superman.
Well, he managed being himself, he had a natural charisma, I feel.
Well, yeah, but he manages to turn that off playing Clark Kent. But you know, as it's something that no other actor that's played Superman has ever fully managed to duplicate. Tyler Hoechlin has come close, but nobody else has ever managed to just pull off that screen presence that Christopher Reeve had. And you know, I even look back at the old Superman, you know, George Reeve,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have it either.
Yeah, they're still a little too trying hard to be stoic and so forth.
Where Christopher Reeve just has this approachability, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Anyway, was there anything more you wanted to say about Superman?
Nope. So that's the end of Superman, which brings to the next movie, which is the Suicide Squad.
We talked about
which
this one a couple weeks
Yep.
ago, but now we get to see your
You've
two
seen it,
more.
and also I got to see it a couple of weeks ago now.
Right.
Just after, actually, yeah, it would have been like 2 Saturdays ago.
And
All
of
right.
course, my thoughts were very fresh in my mind about this before I watched Superman, and Superman sort of supplanted them. But I remember most of what I wanted to say anyway. So this is very much on the comedy, action, violence side. There's definitely inspiration from things like there's elements of things like Birds of Prey in there. There's obviously, with it being James Gunn, there's a lot of elements of things like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that it actually made me think of was something like, and I haven't watched uh, this series in a while, so hopefully I'm thinking the right movie, but either something like Jason X or Freddy versus Jason with the comedy violence. And by what
Kinda,
I mean,
sorta.
by what I mean is there are scenes that could be scenes of violence that could be portrayed either, you know, completely seriously, blood everywhere, etc. Whereas that's very clearly, in some ways, meant to make you not feel bad for the characters that are dying. One character, I'm not going to say who, has his head sliced in half, and you just kind of see like the top of his head slide off, and there's, you know, no blood spray or anything. It's very clearly, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't say completely a joke, but it's you're definitely not meant to feel as
It's
much
meant
for
to
these
be very much
characters
over
as
the
for other
top,
things.
which it's very much meant to be over the top, which is something that 80s slasher films could occasionally do.
Right.
It's like they'll show you something really
mhm.
brutal and nasty, but at the same time, it almost triggers a laugh out of you just how over the top it went.
Another thing that I think was definitely an influence was something like Deadpool, which
Yeah.
came out the same year as the original Suicide Squad. But yeah, there's definitely some of what's going on definitely feels like they either James Gunn had very similar thoughts to the Deadpool director or just was inspired by Deadpool.
Or something that are some similar root that the both of them share.
My biggest criticism of it is two characters in particular I think were wasted. One of them I honestly think shouldn't have even been in the movie because it's a character that should be strong enough to trade blows with Superman, who appears in the movie and at least seems to die.
Oh.
I don't think that character should have even been there because it just doesn't fit with the Suicide
No.
Squad.
I have to totally disagree with you, Bill. He has to be there because that ending is hilarious.
Nope, then that's not what I mean then.
Oh.
It's a she.
Oh.
She's barely in the movie.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
The other one is, so Peter Capaldi was clearly cast for his ability to do some great punchlines that he delivers really well.
Mm-hmm.
But if he wasn't the thinker, the movie would not have lost anything. If he was just a random scientist with a white coat,
With crazy stuff on his head, yeah.
even without that, he's just
If he just was J random mad scientist, yeah, it wouldn't
he
have lost.
doesn't do enough in the movie to, like, I feel like he should have gotten at least 1 or 2 moments to be at least a temporary big bad and show, like, I have, this, after 30 years of working on this project. Well, I mean, I'm sure everyone's seen the trailer. So after 30 years of working with Starro, this is something that I can do to fuck up your day. He doesn't even have a moment like that. He's pretty much there. He delivers a few punchlines. He's used as a hostage. And that's really about it. I feel he's really underused, whether as the thinker or even as a generic bad guy. I think either way, I would consider him underused.
He was definitely fun, but yeah, it does feel like he could have been just about anybody else.
But other than those characters that I feel were underused, I did enjoy the movie. Probably not as good as the first Guardians of the Galaxy, but definitely more than the first Suicide Squad, and probably even more than Birds of Prey. Which, I mean, some people don't like it. I liked it. Oh yeah, and Peacemaker was in the movie a lot more than I thought he was. I thought he was going to be in the movie about as long as Javelin was, but he was in
Oh
a
no, he
lot of
was
the
in there
movie.
a good while.
Now I understand why when it first came out, people were talking about him like all the time, and apparently they're making a show about him.
Yes, he has. And yes,
Yeah.
Gunn is
Mhm.
doing the show. By the way, he is the
Okay.
writer, director, producer.
And
And yeah,
I think this is the first thing I've ever seen John Cena in, because I mean, my only experience with wrestling is PS2 games. Sorry, WWE fans. I don't think I've seen any movies he's been in.
I just know him as a
well,
meme.
that's because you can't see him.
But yeah, he had a good performance here. I've probably seen Idris Elba in something else, but I couldn't tell you what off the top of my head.
Thor.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. He's Heimdall, isn't he?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. So I've seen him in at least that.
Wasn't he also in Pacific Rim?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
he was-
I think he was a Pentecost, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I think you're right now that you say it. Yeah, that's probably why I recognized him so well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Those are the main ones I know him from.
mhm. Oh yeah, and I just side note, I do find it funny. The one character who did not start off with plot armor, who James Gunn was going to kill off, but then after the movie started, they realized that character was too likable and decided not to kill her. So she ended up getting plot armor by virtue of being likable. And I do think that this movie is basically James Gunn throwing down the gauntlet and saying, "Now we need Squirrel Girl."
Yes. Yes, I think that was in my thing last when I talked about this a couple weeks ago, wasn't it? That Ratcatcher is basically Squirrel Girl with rats.
Yeah.
Right. And that's all I
offbeat
have.
Squirrel Girl, which is interesting in and of itself.
And that's all I have to say. So I'll hand it over to Matt for his thoughts on it.
Matt, the mic is yours.
So fully handing it over to me, I really enjoyed my time with this. I watched it with, I believe it was 3 other guys. Yeah. So yeah, I just saw it like a couple Saturdays ago. Yeah, John Cena, I've never actually really seen him outside of memes. I just knew he was a meme. Most of the acting I really enjoyed. Yeah, there's a lot of characters that got really quickly tossed away. At a certain point. Yes, the main cast that we stick around with the longest, though, were really interesting. Oh gosh, trying to think of his name now. Shark.
King Shark.
Nineveh?
I'm trying to think of his voice actor's name, but yeah, King Shark.
Sly Stallone.
Stallone. This is probably one of Stallone's best roles in a while.
By the way,
Oh.
so by the way, this first weekend, this topped the box office.
Mm-hmm.
And because this was a movie with Sylvester Stallone in it, that means that Sylvester Stallone has had a top box officing movie for I think it's 6 decades.
Boom.
70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020. 6 decades.
Nice. He's another one that the internet blew up about when the movie first came out.
Oh, his character is fantastic. It's
No,
hilarious.
it's I really hope they include him in further DC movies because
Oh yes. He's just a really fun character, and he can be what you need him to be at the moment, whether he's a muscle or if he's just a comical character.
I don't know if I'd be able to root against him if he appeared in a Flash movie, though.
Trying to think. Oh yeah, you mentioned one person that died. Apparently, I didn't catch who it was that you meant originally, Bill. But the other character that supposedly died really early on, I find absolutely comical for how they come back at the very end.
Oh yes.
The mid credit.
The mid credit.
Mm-hmm. I don't even think it's mid credit. I think it's just before credits.
It kind of is. Like, people refer to it as the first post credit scene, but there's like 10 seconds of credits and then that scene, and then 10 minutes of credits and then the other scene.
So yes, by the way, I love how they made this character.
Oh?
Yes, and I told them this 2 weeks ago. Or actually, I think I said that the production team that made this character should get together with Burt Breathed and make a movie about Bill the Cat using the same style. Well, after I said that a couple weeks ago, I read and discovered that the entire performance of this character was based on Bill the Cat. I'm like, that's the first thing that popped into my mind, guys. Bravo. Bravo. And if you don't know who Bill the Cat is, it's from a comic strip called Bloom County, where he was supposed to be a ripoff of Garfield, only cracked out. I mean, there's no other way to say it. His hair is sticking up all over the place. He frequently has his tongue hanging out, and one of his eyes is a different size from the other.
Yeah.
And is known for speaking. It is known for the words "ack" and pfft. It's
yeah.
Apparently he used to be a laboratory research cat that escaped. I think was one of his origin stories
for Bill.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I love that character. I love the character that we're not talking about, or that we're not naming.
But also I really enjoyed Polka Dot. Polka Dot Man had an interesting development throughout, and he I want to just call that out too, in particular, because dang.
Dang.
I just really enjoy. I had no idea what to expect out of Polka Dot Man outside of, I believe he throws dots at people. What do they even do? Oh shit.
That's the thing. The original Suicide Squad, you had a bunch of team members together, none of which, except for maybe one or two, you gave a shit about. Here, you wind up caring about everybody.
Yeah, all the people that are in it for the long run, you do genuinely start to have a feel for.
Mm-hmm.
And a few maybe side people here and there.
You mean after we go through the first 2/3 of the team?
In the grist mill, yeah.
2/3? You mean half of the team?
But yeah, if you take a look at the original movie, the 2016 movie, I remember that Harley Quinn and Captain Boomerang was in it, and a horrible version of Killer Croc. And I don't remember any of the other characters. I don't think I cared. This one, that's like, oh yeah, I love that character. I even like Peacemaker in a certain way.
Peacemaker in his own little crazy over the top way, yes.
Yes, the way he and was it Bloodsport play off each other.
Mm-hmm. In particular, yeah.
Really, it's just one of those things where it's like you need it. This movie is proof that you needed a director who could actually handle the well, a director and writer that could handle an ensemble cast.
Mhm.
Yes, and Gunn has already proven he can handle an ensemble cast.
And one with enough
Mm.
clout to tell the producers fuck off
Yes.
before they
Yeah.
screw up the movie.
Yeah, apparently that was
Yeah.
the thing with the first movie, that it had such lame music because the producers came in and said, "No, well, you can use this music," but the guy's like, "I want to use this music." You can't. We're using this music.
We want it to be more like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Gunn came in, said, "I'm using this music." The producer said, "Well, what about this music?" He said, "No, this is my music or I walk. I'll go right the hell back to Marvel. Thank you."
I'm already going back to Marvel. Don't tempt me.
Well, yeah, I mean, apparently Gunn is just going to be going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth now.
Mhm.
I think
Basically.
by the time this was done filming, he had already been announced for Guardian 3. So
Yes, he
Guardian
had.
So
3
that's
is-
probably what he's already working on right now.
He's just
Oh,
finishing
he's doing the Guardians Christmas special, I think.
Well, right now he's just wrapping up Peacemaker the series. Then I think he has the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, and then he's Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
I wonder if the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special will have masturbating Wookiees too.
They'll probably lampshade it somehow, knowing freaking Gunn. I mean, this whole thing to me tastes like he's going to be spoofing up the Star Wars holiday special.
Yeah.
I wouldn't surprise if there's like an animated bit in the middle of it, just because.
Yeah, I can definitely see him being like, well, this is the closest we'll get to having the Star Wars holiday special on Disney Plus, so let's just go for it.
All right, so my goal for making this movie is to make George Lucas crap himself. All right.
Hey George, you think you did some crazy shit in your Christmas special? All right, is that it for Suicide Squad?
Yep, and I'll be back after your Avengers. I need to step up deck.
Alrighty. So, yep, moving on to the next things. I got a couple of solo things here. I finally got to see Avengers Age of Ultron. While I was in the hospital, I held back on doing a review of it because I just didn't want to get in the way of things last time. Long story short, I definitely enjoyed this one. I don't know if it's really necessary to see, but you do need it if you want to know where key characters such as Scarlet Witch and Vision came from, and how that relationship kicked off so quickly, because basically he kind of last minute saved her as she was trying to defend the big MacGuffin at the end of the movie. Because Vision is OP in certain ways, including being able to fly and go through solid objects. That being said, the regular cast are really good. Oh yeah, and there was also the bit where they kind of explain. They still don't really fully explain how the hell Hulk ends up where he goes for Ragnarok. Just that the ship went off and then they couldn't recover it somehow for some reason.
Right.
Yeah, like I
that
think
doesn't
the
explain
whole...
how it literally shoots off into space somehow and finds its way through a wormhole.
I think the whole point is that it's like a fucking jet or whatever that you're not supposed to be able to track or something, and he's essentially just hijacked it and fucks off.
Basically, they just wanted to do Planet Hulk without the Hulk going on any rampages. So they're just like, oh well, his jet took a wrong turn at Albuquerque and ended up on another planet.
It still doesn't make much sense, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they figured that was better than having him being shot into space by a bunch of heroes.
It still doesn't make much sense because the jet just takes off and somehow it ends up in space in a wormhole and goes to another planet. I don't know even. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just like we need him there for Thor Ragnarok, so we'll just shoot him off here. What the hell?
Yeah, no, wave her hands. He's just here now. Haha. But otherwise, this as a saying, yeah, to explain Vision and Scarlet Witch, this is definitely a necessary movie for those. To explain how they also become so quickly attached, despite being technically on opposite sides, although Vision comes in much later after she's picked her side originally. Also explains how she and her brother switched sides just before, sadly, the death of her brother.
Yeah, I think that was really a mistake by them.
Yeah, they kind of wasted him. Actually, it felt like they could have been much more they could have done with him and saved him for later.
I
I
always
think
wondered.
that was part of the deal with Fox when they split the characters.
I was wondering
maybe.
that you can have them, but you can only have them once, something like that.
Yeah, that might have been it.
It's really hard because there are at least 2 or 3 Avengers that are also X-Men. So
So it's a little bit odd at times.
Who owns the license? Well, it doesn't matter now, but it did at the time.
Yeah, it did at the time, so that's why things were a little. Otherwise, yeah, I really generally enjoyed my time with it. It was a very quiet night that evening in the ICU, so yeah, it was nice to have something to watch. For explaining some characters, it's definitely highly recommended. Otherwise, I'm kind of think it's almost forgettable. It was Ultron was just kind of a thing that came and went immediately in one movie.
Yeah, it was always one of the low points of the MCU to me. I mean, it establishes stuff that they follow up on, but I really found it to be really a bunch of a drag.
The main actual threat is kind of here and gone again, like a snap of the fingers.
Yeah.
That's why I was partially hoping that in WandaVision we would see like Ultron take over Vision, like during when they were hyping up the surprises at the end. That it was just going to be now you have to fuck with Ultron.
But nope, didn't happen.
Nope. Technically, he was his own separate thing before Ultron beat the hell out of him early on in that movie.
And then, of course, we have it explains the whole Vision plot line in Endgame, or in Infinity War and Endgame. But still, it's I don't know. It really felt like a really truncated storyline for Vision.
Yeah, it felt like a lot of Vision and Wanda landing, or Scarlet Witch just landing in your lap really quickly, and you gotta take it and go. And meanwhile, we got a villain who's just kind of here for the one movie, and he's over.
I mean, I do wonder
outside of literally a very quick reference in like 1 or 2 movies later, nothing else ever gets mentioned of it.
Yeah, I do wonder if like the original intention actually was to go right to Thanos, and this was just a matter of, oh fuck, we have to scramble for something else.
Yeah, I think
we realized that we jumped the shark by trying.
Oh, you mean like go to Thanos with this movie? Yeah, that would have been too soon.
Might have. Yes, and I feel like they were going to, and then they realized that, and then they're like, "Oh fuck! Well, we've got to scramble for something else."
Yeah, we got to scramble for something else that can fill in for one movie.
Yeah.
All I can say is at least they never brought in the Thanos copter.
Might have been better if they had introduced Vision in like Iron Man 3, or introduced Ultron, sorry, as a concept in Iron Man 3. Right, Iron Man 3 was before Ultron, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Iron Man 3 is immediately following the Avengers. It's like 6 months after.
Yeah.
So it would have been interesting if like Stark had started working on it, and then like it just would have been that much extra time to build him up in this movie.
It would have been, especially considering how lame the plot of Iron Man 3 was.
Yeah.
With the Mandarin that wasn't.
The Mandarin that really wasn't Mandarin twice. Because the Mandarin's gonna be in Shang-Chi.
Yeah, it just they could have built that up a little better, but I think they were. It's like we need a script now. I have this idea. Okay, we'll run with that.
And we're running by the seat of our pants for this one movie. Oh boy.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody expected the Avengers to rocket off the shelf like it did.
It's funny that the MCU, especially compared to DC, has this big reputation of being better planned, of leading into things. And I think like everybody looking back years later, I think Age of Ultron is the one that kind of stands out as not being as well planned and not really tying into
Yeah,
everything.
there was a small little segment right around in here where things kind of went a little threadbare for a minute.
Right. Like it definitely ties into things like that came much later, like WandaVision, even like Endgame and Infinity War. But at the time, it really wasn't tying into things as well as the other movies were.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
just
it was after Iron Man 3. They're just kind of like, okay, we need to sit down and plot this out. But at that point, they were already working on Ultron.
And it's interesting too because I think when they were writing Iron Man 3, they didn't know if Downing was going to renew his contract. I think because it
Yeah,
seemed
that
like
was
they were writing him out,
that
and
was
then
a
he came
question at
back.
the time. Because I think he was only signed up for 3 Iron Man movies.
And then cameos and Avengers, yeah.
Yeah, and Avengers, and I don't know how many Avengers movies he was signed for, but eventually he signed up for
a few
that, and they
more.
got and agreed him. I think they agreed on a la carte thing for like when he appeared in Captain America and stuff.
Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, this is not like a bad movie per se. It's just you can notice that it kind of comes and goes, but it's very much a plot that just centers on itself for one movie.
It's a weird standalone.
Yeah, and that just so happens to bring in a few characters that are important later.
Yep.
So that's my thoughts on Ultron. So going into this really quick into video games, I've been playing Final Fantasy 1 on the Pixel remake the Pixel remake version. So few things I noticed. I think this is more or less the gameplay is based on the Final Fantasy 1 that came out for PlayStation 1. They've updated all the spell names. They've added a number of items that make it a little bit easier to play through the game. Like they have like more powerful potions, and they added Phoenix Downs, etc.
Yeah, I believe that was the Wonder Swan version.
I will say they updated a lot of things though too for this. Like I think they tried to go as close to the NES, but still upgraded it a bit for the character sprites. And I've been also noticing a lot of particle effects in this game that kind of remind me of Octopath Traveler a bit in how they look. And also the soundtrack is really good. I really like the update to the soundtrack. The original creator of the music, by the way, was supervised and directed remaking these soundtracks apparently.
Is it still like the original soundtrack with just a facelift, or is it?
It is definitely the original soundtrack with a facelift. Like you can tell, it's most of it's orchestral, but there's like little hints of rock, and then there's like the victory theme is a little more rock with hints of orchestral. It's really well done. You still feel what you were supposed to feel out of these songs, and they go like full orchestral for like the village music and castle music, etc. So a lot of it is still doing what it needs to be doing, and they picked the right times to add a little extra oomph. Also, I was mentioning the particle effects. The magic spell effects are also, I think, some of the better ones I've seen for Final Fantasy 1 so far. They add a lot more flash to it. So that's my feelings on it so far. Otherwise, I'm halfway through getting to the Earth Crystal right now. So we'll see how I feel about it as I wrap up the rest of the game.
And from what I had seen of other people playing, my impression was I was only planning to get this version if it included the new dungeons that they added for, I think, the Game Boy Advance version.
Which it does not.
Which it does not.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I think I would just rather get a more true to the original version instead.
Honestly, I really like this one. Actually, I'm trying to remember. I think it might have even came with a soundtrack, if I'm not mistaken, when I bought the package version. But otherwise, yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. The little tweaks are nice. It is. I feel like it's a better. I almost feel like it's a better version of the PlayStation 1 game version of this. That's basically what I'm feeling out of it so far. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed my time with the PlayStation 1 version, but I did enjoy the difficulty of the original more here and there.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, there was literally an easy button version.
Yeah, even the air quotes normal version for the PlayStation 1 that was supposed to emulate how the difficulty of the first original NES game was still easier because of some of the stuff they've added to the game. Again, that being said, I still like some of the updates they've added to this over the original PlayStation 1 version, but it's still nowhere near as hard as the original. This is what I'm getting so far. Oh, and I will add that the main reason I decided to pick this up and start playing right away recently is because I've been told the end boss is supposed to be super beefed up.
Only hit point wise. They added an extra 0 to his hit points.
Okay. I was gonna say I did
Punch
hear
him
he wasn't.
harder.
I did hear he wasn't quite as much of a pushover anymore.
Wind up the fist. Let's go. I'm gonna win this again. That seems to be my thing since being Final Fantasy 3 with like the hardest version of Final Fantasy 3. It's like, now I need to beat the hardest version of this Final Fantasy again. Let's go. Chaos, I'm looking for you.
All right. So is there anything else you wanted to say?
That's about it for that.
All right. So that will conclude our Geek Talk, finally.
Mm-hmm. And just about on time, too. Yeah.
Yep. So, I believe it is my turn to do the summary.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yay, me.
All right. Stopwatch is ready.
1 moment.
Mm-hmm. I'm out of water.
I'm almost out of water. Okay.
Ready?
So, yes.
All right. 3, 2, 1, begin.
All right. So we start this episode in the year 2059, where a young boy is breaking into a very familiar attic. He is he comes across the resident of this attic, who is a old witch-looking like lady, who, after talking to him, introduces herself as Rani Chandra. Mentions the fact that she's in this attic because it has the memories of friends she used to have that are gone now. And that basically leads her into telling the story of how when she was a little girl, i.e. modern times when we meet the Rani we all know, she's comes in to talk to Sarah Jane and crew, who had just got done talking with Maria and were talking excitedly about what she's up to. Tries to clue them in on something that she thinks might be an issue. To have that shot down by Sarah Jane has already been investigated. Bored and frustrated, she goes home and discovers she received an email from an old friend from where she used to live. Investigating it, turns out that there's people disappearing from a amusement park. She goes to investigate. The friend is really rude to her. And she eventually winds up going alone into this place where she sees a bunch of people with weird red eyes playing on the machines after she's introduced to the caretaker, whose name is Harry. He seems very, very keen on getting her to leave. Suspiciously so. He doesn't really want to talk much, but when forced to, he does. And constantly saying, "Shouldn't you get out of here?" kind of thing. But she doesn't listen to him, and she finds this, like I said, these people, and eventually goes into this haunted attraction where she runs into this red-haired lady. The red-haired lady introduces herself as Eve, says that she had been a refugee from a certain war that we are all familiar of, hint, 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 hint. And because her people were sensitive to timelines, she allows Ronnie to see her own future, that of the mad lady in the attic. Ronnie freaks out, but talks to Eve and realizes that Eve herself's not a bad person. She convinces Eve to leave there where she had been left for her safety and to find her ship. On the way out, they run into Sarah Jane, who came looking for and had met her friend, Sam. And eventually, after a little bit of misunderstanding, they leave the ride. They go out to find the ship, which is the AI that has been helping her control stuff. Eve possesses Ronnie briefly. They get to the beach and they find the ship, and realizing the ship needs black hole energy, Sarah Jane contacts K9, who's been overseeing a black hole. They use that black hole to fuel the ship, thus releasing K9, and everything seems to be coming out okay. Harry and Sam decide to go with Eve, and everything looks like it's about to wrap up when the ship grants Ronnie a wish she made earlier when she was frustrated and angry and said she wished that Sarah Jane and the crew would leave her alone. Sarah Jane, Luke, Clyde all fade from existence, and we go back to the Mad Woman in the attic. The boy that broke in then reveals that he is actually the son of Sam and Eve, and grants Ronnie a new wish, which she promptly uses to undo the previous wish. Slowly, she fades from existence as that reality is replaced by one where she had never been, where Sarah Jane and the others were never wished away. And then we see Ronnie around the same time with kids and grandkids and having lived a good life. Pretty much the end of the story. The end.
All right. 5 minutes, 5 seconds.
So close.
Oh, it gets better though. It's 555 across the board.
Well, at least it wasn't 666.
Right?
Anyway, so let's talk about what we liked about the episode. Matt, you're first.
All right. So, general thing I liked about the episode. I like that we get to figure out a little more about Ronnie, and that kind of ties into this, as well as doing some other side stuff with her possible future and re-altering of her future because of this one event. But yeah, I know she moved, but I don't think she ever really talked about anybody she used to know from her previous home, at least not very often. When she first popped up as a new character.
Yeah, I don't even think she ever specified where she was from in previous episodes.
So this kind of builds up a little bit of background for her again.
Where did she say she was from, or where she went? Where did she say?
Where was this at? Because I believe the circus thing was in the same spot. or the same town.
Yeah. I'm sitting here trying to remember, then I remembered I can just as easily look up the episode. Danemouth.
Banemouth?
Danemouth. D-A-N-E mouth.
Okay. So, knowing English naming schemes, that would be the mouth of the River Dane, which I don't know if it actually exists.
Could be made up. Could be something that does exist. Who knows?
It's when I looked it up, the first result I got was Agatha Christie wiki.
Yeah, I don't see it if I do a map search for it. So it's probably a fictional town, which they said was on England's southern coast. Because I remember that bit from the show.
And it looks like all of the results, one way or another, tie into Agatha Christie. So
it's
Probably
a big
it was
Agatha Christie reference, is what it is.
Which doesn't surprise me, because if you remember correctly, the Doctor Who crew was big Agatha Christie fans around this time.
Mm-hmm. They just must have been on a kick or something between writers. I'm just throwing in a spare reference that when they had a hard time trying to figure out a village name or something.
Uh-huh.
They didn't want to be. I don't know if the UK is quite as lawsuit happy, but they didn't want to be accused of ruining the reputation of any theme parks or carnivals in a real town.
That's
Well,
a possibility too, maybe.
That's possible. I mean, they mentioned the fact that Sarah is from Ealing, which is an actual location in London. Or that's where Bannerman Road's supposed to be. There is no Bannerman Road in Ealing, by the way. I did check that. Yes, I do the checking for everybody.
But yeah, in general, the extra development for Ronnie was good on this one. So that's mine.
Okay. All right. Looking back, I believe Bill's next.
All right, so I like the misdirect with the darkness. It keeps you in suspense about what sinister motives are actually being planned, while it's actually just a reasonable linguistic confusion referring to black holes. So I thought it was a nice touch of spice on the episode.
Yeah, especially considering what Russell T had done with that in the past. They just freaking use it, and it's like, nope, we actually just mean this.
Sorry, linguistic error.
All right, Thomas, what about you?
It's one of two things. Oh well, I'll just go with ultimate. I mean, I was going to say the villain, but I guess it's just Eve. But yeah, I like the fact that she both is and isn't a villain in a way. Like the idea is, it just turns out that she doesn't realize what she's doing ultimately, but specifically they play it off as her being a kid. It's more believable that she wouldn't, whereas if it was supposed to be like this ancient character or whatever the fuck that just looked like a kid or whatever, it'd be like, okay, no, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they basically do play her off as an alien child that doesn't quite understand what she's doing as being the wrong thing.
Yeah.
All right. So what did I like? I actually kind of want to go off Thomas's. I like a story. This is a story that doesn't really have a villain. Everything is based off of misunderstandings and misconstruement. So there's no really the evil in this.
Yeah.
And it's honestly kind of refreshing to see a story like that where you don't have the bad guys being bad guys.
Yeah.
The evil is poor communication.
Yeah, I don't, I wouldn't want every episode to be like that, but it's nice to see one every now and again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Justice once, everybody lives.
Yeah, kind of thing.
Basically. Had been a few seasons even for them to do something like that.
Yep. Where the baddies aren't out to take over the universe or a planet or whatever. Melt it down and sell it for scrap. All right. So what do we dislike about this? Matt.
General dislike about it. I'm trying to think. Which one do I what do I want to go with here? Well, I enjoyed the character. I do feel like Eve's costume and makeup doesn't quite hold up. Like sometimes it does, but there's a lot of times, especially when they bring it out into the sunlight where it doesn't and starts to kind of fall apart.
I think it's mainly the hair. That
oh, it's
doesn't
not the
hold up
hair,
as
just the hair
well.
for me. I've actually got a picture here. I can see her human hands. Copy image so you guys can see. Yeah, I'll post in podcast chat. You can see her human hands. They didn't even. I don't know if there was a budget that day or what's going on, but I'm pretty sure that was close to being in shot. If it wasn't completely in shot.
On other clips, it does look like the red isn't as prominent on her fingers as it is on her face.
But they try to play it off as being that she's supposed to be all over because she's an alien. So
yeah, I guess it's like it might have even been a thing of like
if you look at some people with darker skin colors, you'll notice their palms have a lighter tone than the rest of their skin. Their palms, the soles of their feet.
Well, then I would expect at least an orange tint to it.
But yeah, this is another image that shows her hands. Like a lot of stuff only shows her face, which is probably why that's where the majority of the paint is. But the image I'm posting in the chat here, you could kind of see, like there's red on like the backs of her fingers, and that actually looks more like paint than her face. So that, I guess that is a valid criticism then. But on the inside of her hand, it very much looks like normal human skin, or maybe just slightly pinker.
If even that, and also your image, her face makeup looks a little off too. So yeah, it's hard to say what's going on with that. It seems like her makeup changed depending on who was in control of it that day, I guess.
I actually think that's lighting. That's the issue on that.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think Randy's right.
Yeah,
maybe the lighting's throwing it off on there.
Yeah, I mean, like at first she's in a lot of like, I guess not dark rooms, but like dark herb, and then she's out in the open.
Right. Yeah, she's definitely not. She's not as well lit before Ronnie brings her outside.
Yeah.
All right, Bill, how about you?
So I wish they had fleshed out the relationship between Sam, Ship, and Eve a little better. He's not a zombie, so it doesn't seem like, he's directly under the control of Eve, and he communicates with Ship, yet he knows who Eve is. So does that mean he met her? I just wish we had a little bit more about that.
They did say that he was actually the boy that found Eve in the mine shaft, and then made up the came up with the story to bring in Ronnie. At least that's what Luke found out.
Yeah.
But then if that's the case, wouldn't Eve have considered him lonely and had made him into a zombie?
She did, for whatever reason, she didn't make him into a zombie, but they still had some sort of connection, yeah.
The AI realized got interested in Ronnie,
Right.
and
Oh yeah,
That's-
that's what.
that's
Yeah,
why
that part's a bit more clear, but
that would also be why he wasn't zombified.
He still needed to make connections and talk to Ronnie and so forth. Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas zombified just seem to go mute and just do whatever emotion that they're demanded to have.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's just that he was already like a willing helper. So
that
there
too.
was no
He
real
never
need
tried to.
to.
He never tried to actually leave. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, Thomas.
I guess just for something to say because otherwise I don't really have anything. As much as like this is basically just a nitpick, but it is one of those things where like the framing device is very much like, well, we know that's not going to stick.
Oh, you mean the
you know,
future?
right.
Yeah, like her being the titular mad woman in the attic is very like, well, that ain't gonna stick. I mean, it's much more about, and it's only a nitpick because it's really like it's more about the journey rather than the
Mhm.
destination sort of a thing. But it's still like it's so funny just watching like rewatching this and being like, well, yeah, we're clearly not sticking to this future time, these future events.
It lasted longer than I expected to. It became part of the. It basically became part of the true timeline, which I did not expect. I thought it was going to be averted, but instead it had to happen so that
so that
Adam
it could
could
be
come
then
back.
changed, and then everything has to revert back.
Also, fuck! I just realized Adam and Eve. God damn it!
Yeah.
Wah wah wah. On the nosy.
All right. So, I guess I'm the only one that's thinking Ronnie in here is being a royal bitch.
She was having a bad day.
I mean,
I think we've all had one of those kind of days.
most characters her age are at least half the time.
Yeah, my major issue is it's really kind of unfounded why she goes off like that. I mean, she knows about Maria, so she knows to get excited when talking to somebody they don't talk to often, and it just seems like her whole response to that is just a little over the top. I guess a little too Ron Weasley for my tastes.
Actually, I will agree partially because I will say while she does have moments of, you know what, it's not really their fault, I forgive them, this obviously wasn't what they really intended, she does kind of flip-flop back a lot, which kind of makes me worried that there's something else going on medically, maybe, but can't say for sure.
I mean, I basically let it slide as far as
But
she's a teenager.
Yeah, you
it
can kind of allow
happens.
that too.
I was kind of I was kind of like it's a bit much, but I think that's also why she was narrating, so you can see like, okay, I overreacted at this, I overreacted at that, and be like, okay, so we're at least seeing the thought process. Whereas if there was no narration or anything, it would be a little harder to empathize.
Okay, well, it still stuck me as a little over the top for that character, a little out of character for that character.
At moments, yeah.
All right.
Fair.
Favorite scenes.
Ooh.
Matt.
K9 teleporting in and then talking to Mr. Smith. So I take it you are here to come back? Affirmative. Great.
Okay. Yeah.
He seems to have some sort of loathing for K9.
Yeah, I like
Well, remember, K9 is a bit of a smartass. You know, he has that ego of about himself.
I'm not so sure it's so much that he's so dang literal.
No, it's also that. I mean, especially if you look at him in the classic series, he was always very smug about his capabilities.
It's the I've been listening to a lot of Gallifrey lately, and the K9s are always sniping at each other.
Like doctors, actually. Okay.
They seem to have picked up some personality traits from their masters.
Your favorite scene, Bill?
So I'm going to go with the playtime where all the zombie people come out and Ronnie's like, "What the fuck is going on?" It could definitely be a scene from a horror movie, and I thought that was really well done.
All right. All right. Thomas, yours.
I guess we sort of touched on it slightly already, but I do like, because you are kind of wondering, it's like, well, wait a minute, when's that going to come up? And then, like, right near the end, they do the whole, "Ah, yes, I will grant you your wish." Oh, fuck. And then Ronnie ends up in the Mad
Yeah.
Woman in the Attic timeline.
Yeah, it's almost like it's tacked on.
Yeah, kind of, sorta, just to make sure the framing device works.
It's just suddenly it's like you're going there and you're getting the feeling everything's exclusive, and then suddenly it flip flops, and it's like, what the fuck? Oh shit! Yeah.
Yeah.
So my favorite scene is the scene with Clyde and Sarah Jane when they're walking to the amusement park and they start sniping at each other. Or snarking at each other, whatever you want to call it. But Clyde starts making comments about Sarah Jane being old.
Oh, like the I should have brought Luke. He can run faster.
Yeah. Yes. They just start taking little snips at each other, and then it's obvious.
I should have brought Luke. He complains, says, "Yes, but I run faster. I was still holding back. Oh, really? Were you?"
Actually, now that I think about it, especially with the flashbacks in this, that's very reminiscent of her and Tom Baker.
It kind of is.
And they're smiling at each other when they're doing it too, so they're not taking it seriously.
Yeah, it's literally old-fashioned ribbing again.
It was just a good camaraderie scene. I liked it.
Yeah. Of course, now that I think about it, a backup I probably would have gone with for favorite scene would have been Clyde tricking that guy into admitting that he's met Ronnie.
Oh, that was good too.
He's just he's just shitting all over, and then he catches the guy
and just immediately
I think that was going to be my best scene, but I forgot, and then I had to come up with a new one.
Two other things actually really quick before we move on. Found another scene where her hands are visible and they are completely painted, so I don't know what's going on with her hands. But
this
also
continuity was a bit wonky. I guess.
My other backup favorite scene would be Ronnie with red eyes, because somehow that's literally legitimately a creepy thing. She has this absolutely sinister smile, and those red glowing eyes do not help.
Yeah, they use that in like the next episode trailers so much. You're just like, you're sure like something awful is going to happen.
All right. Least favorite scenes.
Oh, and I gotta go first again. Least favorite scene. I don't want to go for the elephant in the room, but I really could. Because we kind of mentioned it before. Does anyone else know what I'm talking about, or should I just go for it?
Go for it.
Literally, the worst scene, I think, is the feeling of just how tagged on the whole last minute. Oh, and we delete all your friends. Bye.
Oh, here, let me grant your wish.
Just Just Thanos snap. Bye.
That scene was a bit rushed. I don't know if tacked on is right because obviously, like, I think they came up with the title first, and then the framing device, and then
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah, no.
But it was definitely was rushed at the end.
Well, I think it feels tacked on because they made that ending so that it could go either way.
Right.
So it really kind of felt like the "Let me grant your wish" was more of a bypass of what actually happened. It felt more like the alternate than the original.
Yeah.
I guess that makes a lot of sense when you say it that way.
Although I do wonder what it would have been like if they'd made a well, I almost would say like it'd be interesting if that had been like a its own cliffhanger and then like there was a third episode.
Mhm.
But at that point it's like, okay, I don't know if there's actually enough left
Right.
to justify a third episode. It more like you'd have to cram a lot into the first episode, and the second episode would have to be
The
dealing with
framing
the
device would have
consequences.
had to be a lot more than a framing device for that to really work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It would
Yeah.
have made sense if it were like a 70s Who 4-parter and like that was episode 4.
Mm-hmm. But yeah. Anyway, Bill, your least favorite scene?
So my least favorite scene is when Ronnie and Sarah Jane confront each other, and Ronnie starts telling Sarah Jane that everything's fine because Eve only wanted to have fun. Ronnie already knew what was wrong with Eve's methods, and it seemed basically like it was only written that way to stir up conflict when they both knew what needed to be done, and just the writers wanted them to fight.
Yeah, that was a bit like, wait, what? Now, if she was already brainwashed or something, then I could maybe get that line, but yeah.
She wasn't.
Or even
Yeah.
like if she was trying to say like I'm trying to convince her not to, but Sarah Jane was cutting her off because she was in too much of a hurry or something, that would have
Yeah.
fit in with what Ronnie was already upset about, and it would have been in character. But I feel like the way it went down was a bit out of character for Ronnie.
Yeah.
All right. Your Thomas, your least favorite scene?
Honestly, just because it kind of looks wonky, the bit where Eve's powers just kind of start to go nuts.
Oh yeah, the digital
And
effects
like
for that.
the digital effects for that, because it basically looks like she's got no arms for one thing because of how the effects are coming off her arms.
The weird
and all
electric
that.
glows are moving.
Yeah, and like while the costume and all that didn't really bother me for the most part, it does look particularly wonky in that one scene. To me, it's just like,
Again, I think it's the
suddenly
fact that
this
they
looks
brought
a
it
bit
out to broad
weird.
daylight for a while.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah. It's just like,
I don't think it quite pans out as well as you guys thought it was. You should have
And
tested
it's
outside.
and you know, it's funny because like the effects of like her powers like fucking with her after that initial one where they essentially give her weird wavy tentacle arm things. It's like like after that that's fine, but that initial effect is, at least to me anyway, is a bit wonky.
Okay. So my least favorite scene is Ronnie confronting Harry for the first time. Somebody threw my backpack over the fence, and oh look, I've twisted my ankle. Ronnie doesn't do a very good job of being convincing about that, and the guy falls for it.
Yeah, and Harry falls for it very easily.
I was gonna say it kind of makes sense for her to not be as good as she thinks she is at it, but him falling for it.
Mm.
Yeah, I could see the complaint there.
Yeah, like especially when he's trying so hard to get her to fuck off.
Mhm.
It's like, you would think that like he wouldn't be so easily swayed.
Yeah, it
Uh,
just seemed
hmm.
a little overdone.
No, she'd actually like taken a step and tripped. Like
That
fake tripped, but tripped. And like that could have
Mhm.
been like, okay.
but she just goes, "Oh, yeah, and I'm hurting my ankle. Oh, it really hurts."
I think if anything, my thought process with that would be like, I think I kind of thought this while watching it. Like, he doesn't expect someone to actually be investigating. He thinks she really is like, even if she's faking the ankle for more information, he thinks she really just like wandered in, not understanding what's going on, and he's more worried about keeping her away from Eve than he is about her actually snooping around. So he's not expecting her to trick him. Whether you buy that or not is up to you, but that was kind of what I thought while watching it.
Mm. I don't know. That's it. Just I don't know. It just seemed a little too fakey for him to buy it for me. Okay.
I do think the actor really sold how nervous his character was,
Yeah.
and that helped me buy it a little bit
Mhm.
more. But I get what you're saying.
Okay. So, final thoughts. Matt.
Well, thoughts. Overall, I think the story is good. It seems that some of the practical and visual effects need a little, another like little extra pass or something here. Also, it seems like a lot of things were rushed, and it's not just the final half of the story. So yeah, it's still generally a pretty good one, but I feel like there's a few issues. I think more than one group must have been just rushed to get this particular episode done for whatever reason.
Well, probably, considering what the next episode in the chain was, probably this one had a lot smaller production budget than usual.
Maybe that does tend to be an issue once in a while, trying to keep enough budget.
If you remember what the next episode is.
I saw it and I forgot what it was.
They sort of hint at it when they show Sarah Jane her future.
Yep. It's the wedding of Sarah Jane, the one that David Tennant shows up for.
Right.
And the trickster, if I remember properly.
And it's another trickster episode, yep.
And we've already reviewed that one, so I feel free of talking about it. So they spent, they had the TARDIS and everything in there, so, like, oh god, we're getting the Doctor. We're going to spend all the money on this one.
Mm-hmm.
And this, basically just got gypped in relationship, I bet.
Quite possibly. That's why a lot of it's shot on location.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to add, Matt?
No, I think that's about it for my thoughts.
Okay. Bill?
So one thought that I haven't really expressed is that I feel like, I don't know if this is the marketing team or the producer or what, but I feel like a whole lot of effort went into the next episode trailer and things like that in terms of really keeping the second part suspenseful. And I think that was actually really effective, and that made a big difference in going into the second episode. I think without that I might not like it as much, because I went into the second episode kind of wondering, what's going to happen. Is Eve going to do a heel turn all of a sudden? There's the clip out of context about if playtime doesn't end, she's going to die over Ronnie's face, and you're really wondering what's going on. In absence of that, I still think this was a pretty good episode. Sam is definitely not fun to be around, but at least they pay off his plot, and it makes sense at the end. And yeah, I guess that's really all I have of meaning to say. It's fairly good. There are definitely things I dislike about it, but I think the good outweighs the bad.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thomas?
It's funny because I'm realizing, even though I definitely had seen this story before, I completely forgot that Eve turned out to just, essentially be a dumb kid rather than being like outright villainous. And I mean, I guess that's why they go for that look, is like you're immediately going to think, I mean, they bloody call her a demon and all that sort of
Mm-hmm.
a thing. Yeah, it's interesting. Of course, it's funny because as much as I still like the temptation of Sarah Jane Smith, um, you could argue this is the more believable of the two when it comes to that kind of a setup in a way. I mean, it's not entirely the same, but the idea of, like Ronnie being so much younger and less experienced,
Mm-hmm.
being swayed at first like that is a lot more believable. Um, but it's interesting twist in that. It also amazed me in hindsight. Wow, this actress actually does like the actress who's playing like uh old lady Ronnie actually really looks like, yeah, I can actually buy that this
Mm-hmm.
woman is like an an old lady version of Ronnie. Like and they got about as much use out of it as they gonna, because I don't know if that I mean, I'd say that woman's probably still kicking, but you wouldn't be able to pull that off now. Although it
Not
did
as
make me
easily.
almost it did almost make me think, God, I hope she is still around and still acting, because that would be a fun, like,
As far as I'm aware, she is. Her name is Suad
mm,
Ferris, and
yeah.
she was also in Game of Thrones.
Oh,
Ah.
so she's likely still around at the least at the moment.
But take a shot, I think.
Game of Thrones, check a shot.
Yeah, like it would be interesting, because like I'm just thinking, God, the possibility there of having that actress come back in like Doctor Who in like a future setting and being like, oh hey, the Doctor runs into old lady Ronnie.
Well, she's in the new Dune
Um
movie.
Oh,
oh
she's definitely around
yeah.
then.
But yeah, I'd definitely say this is worth checking out. So I mean, I'm still of the opinion, and at least from my perspective, this hasn't changed yet, that I've yet to see um a Sarah Jane Adventure story that I thought was outright bad and wasn't
Yeah.
at the very least okay. So yeah, like I definitely still like, flaws and all, I still enjoy this, and I definitely think it's worth checking out.
All right. So my thoughts. Um, I don't think the writing in this was particularly bad, but I think it should have had one more pass
Mm-hmm.
just to smoothen things out. I mean, this is like literally a word shop project that if you had just gone one more pass on the belt sander, it would have been flawless. The special effects are a little flawed, the visual effects, because they were again seemed a bit rushed, and all the acting seems to be fine though. All in all, it's a good effort, but it's not great. Well, I'd say very good, actually. So let's rate this. Let's see what we think. Matt, you get the glory of rating this first.
I'm giving this a 4. It needs that extra round of polish, I think, in just various spots.
Okay. Bill?
Same thing, 4.0.
Thomas?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep that ball rolling and give it a 4 as well.
Okay, I think we'll just leave it at 4 then.
Oh, okay. There we are.
So-
It's on good. It could be very close to great, but it's just there's moments where the polish wears through, and it's like, oh,
That's our third unanimous 4.0 this season of the podcast.
Yeah, unanimous. I was going to say, like, almost saw another one, but that wasn't a unanimous 4.
Mhm.
Yep. All right. So 4.0 is familiar territory for us. And we'll put us at 192 out of 401 things reviewed. It is on par with actually a couple of Sarah Janes. Revenge of the Slovene and the Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith. The one we were just talking about.
yeah. I believe our problem with that episode was the villain himself seemed particularly useless.
Yeah, but I think that might be Class Cole owner of a lonely heart, bravish heart, also on the 4.0 list. And that seems to be it. Oh, K9 the Bounty Hunter. That's also 4s we gave earlier this season.
Since it's come up again and we're wrapping up, I just want to mention we rated the Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith out of order, and I think it was the first or second time we had seen the Trickster on the podcast. I'm very curious if that rating would change after watching them in order.
Maybe. Anyway, it is better than Invasion of the Bane. It is better than K9 and Company. And it is not as good as Torchwood End of Days. And really, that's about it.
Okay.
So there we go. As I said, 192 out of 401 things reviewed. That is all we have to say about the Mad Woman in the Attic.
So please let us know in the comments, what do you think about the episode? Did you agree with us? Did you disagree? And what were your favorite moments? Don't forget to like the video and to subscribe on YouTube and ring the bell, or to follow us on Twitch to get our streams every Tuesday night.
All right, so next week we'll do one more Sarah Jane adventure. Just one more. One more this season with Sarah Jane Adventures, The Eternity Trap, written by Phil Ford, somebody who we like, more or less. And also starring Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, Tommy Knight as Luke Smith, Daniel Anthony as Clyde Langer, Anjali Mohindra as Rani Chandra, Alexander Armstrong as the voice of Mr. Smith, and probably John Leeson as the voice of K9. We will see you next week.
Good night.